The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
So there's these two Israelis, or actually not two, a whole Israeli unit that was in the Judean desert. I don't know if you've ever been in Eretz Yisrael in the Judean desert outside of Yerushalayim, but it gets, in the summer, it's 145 degrees in the shade. It's impossible. The only people that live out there are the Bedouins. You can't be there. And there was a bunch of terrorists out in the Judean desert. They had just thrown a bomb in Yerushalayim at a bus. This is a true story. I read this in the Jerusalem Post. And this Israeli unit was sent in there, into the desert, to follow these terrorists. And they lost them. And two of the soldiers who were sent on a certain path, they got mixed up and they got separated from the whole unit, and nobody could find each other. It's very full of mirages and full of sand dunes, and you can get lost in 2 seconds over there. So these two Israeli guys have a little canteen of water, and they're stuck in the middle of the desert. 2 days they're separated from and they're out of water. And what happens in the desert when you're out of water is you start to hallucinate. You start seeing things that aren't real. So the two of them are on top of this huge sand dune, and they're taking their helmets and put it on their guns so that maybe a helicopter will go by and see that, that they're there. And one of the two of them was already high fever, hallucinating, and he tells his friend, "You're not going to believe it. Hashem made a miracle." And at the bottom of the sand dune is a lake. Now, his friend knew there's no lake in the middle of the Judean desert in the summer. But when you hallucinate, what you see is what you see, and nobody can tell you that it's not what you see. So this guy is telling his friend, and he's schlepping him, he's like, "We gotta go down, we gotta go to the lake, we could jump in, we could drink the water, come on Chaim, let's go." Chaim knows there's no lake, but he also knows that if his friend goes down to the bottom of the sand dune, that's where he's gonna die. So he has to stop him. But you're not going to be able to stop him. He's going to beat you up. He sees a lake. But this guy was very, very smart. So he tells his friend who sees the lake, he says, "I'll go with you on one condition." He says, "If it's really a lake, if the sun is bright, blue sky, look at the lake. If it's really a lake, then there'll be a reflection in the water of the sun and the sky. If there's a reflection, we're going down. It's a lake. If there's no reflection, then it's sand. And you're just having hallucinations. Do you agree that if it's water, it reflects?" "Yes." "Okay. Go look over the side of the sand dune and tell me if you see a reflection. If you do, we're going down." He looks, and he turns to Chaim, or whatever his name is, and he says, "It's weird. I'm looking at the lake, and I just see water, but I don't see the sun, and I don't see the blue sky. There's no reflection." He says, "Of course, dummy, there's no reflection. Sand doesn't reflect. You're looking at sand, and you're seeing water." And he stayed. And 3 hours later, a helicopter found them. And this soldier that was hallucinating wrote a thank you note in the Jerusalem Post, actually wrote it in the Yediot Achronot, which was translated into English in the Jerusalem Post, thanking his friend for saving him and not letting him go down to that lake that didn't exist, and how brilliant that the way he stopped them was, if it's water, it reflects. If it's not water, if it doesn't reflect, it's sand. And I read this story, and I said, this is this parsha this week. Before you do something, look at what you're about to do. If it reflects God, if that's what Hashem wants, it reflects what you're about to do, God, do it! But if it doesn't reflect God, it's like, well, God really wouldn't be happy about me talking like this about this person, or stealing, doing this little business deal which is really not honest, or talking to this guy that's married that I really shouldn't be doing, or going onto certain sites on the internet I really shouldn't be going. But I'm tired at the end of the day, and I work so hard, I'm such a good girl, and I just want to relax, and I want to watch a movie, so it's not very clean, but I need to relax, and it's not so bad. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to change me. Okay, now let's take a look at it. Is Hashem going to be sitting next to me watching this movie with me? Is what He wants me to do? No. It's a mirage. It's wrong. It's sand. It's a satan. It's an hallucination.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org